entering fantasy football leagues here. Here's the top 15 defenses I'm ranking entering the 2022 season. The first defense is the Los Angeles Rams. So the Rams coming off the Super Bowl victory, and their defense obviously playing a great part going all the way last season here with Aaron Donald, the best pass rusher and best defensive player in the NFL. And now you got Jalen Ramsey here, best corner in the league as well over the last few seasons. And last year, this Ram team, 50 sacks, 19 interceptions, 6 fumble recoveries, a return touchdown. And they're a defense that could go out there and make plays, no doubt about it. Last year, the interceptions were a good number. The sacks were great, obviously, with an Aaron Donald. I know Von Miller was there at the back end of the season, but now going to Buffalo in free agency. But still, this Ram team, I think, is going to be the best defense this year. Their offense is going to put up points early and often and make other opposing offenses one-dimensional, where this defense definitely could tee off. I know they're in a pretty tough division with the San Francisco 49ers, who I think will be a decent team this year. We know Seattle, they're going to be struggling after trading Russell Wilson away over there in the NFC West, but Arizona as well could be up and down. So I like the Rams a lot this season, and I got them number 1 going into the year. Number 2, the Buffalo Bills. So the Buffalo Bills beefed up, like I mentioned, adding Von Miller, a much-needed pass rusher to their defense here, especially after what we saw happen in the end of that Kansas City Chiefs playoff game. They were right there to win it, but Patrick Mahomes with some magic and making big plays down the field. So last season for this Bills team, 42 sacks, 19 interceptions, 11 fumble recoveries with a recovery touchdown. And they didn't really score in terms of scoring touchdowns, but their sack numbers, I think, are going to go up this season. Interceptions, I think, could go up a little bit as well. And their division doesn't have the greatest of offense. The New York Jets, their offense, you don't know what you're going to get from them. I don't think much, to be honest. The New England Patriots are more ground and pound type of team, but you can hold them down into the teens to early 20s. And the Miami Dolphins, we're going to see what Tua could do. I know he's got a lot of good weapons in Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Chase Edmonds. They signed Mike Gesicki, but this Bill team, they're another team that's going to get off to big starts, and they're going to make teams one-dimensional and really tee off on offenses and quarterbacks. And last season, they were one of the best defenses in the league in terms of points allowed as well, 287 points. So the Bills here, they could either be number 1 or 2 for a lot of people. But right now, I got the Rams just a little bit better with more impact players on the defense here than the Bills. But you can't go wrong with either defense, and I like them at 2. Number 3, San Francisco 49ers. So the 49ers here, getting everyone back, and they're in a division where they can make some plays as well as this 49er team. And this season, they're going to count on their defense a lot. They're going to be a lot of running with this offense built around Trey Lance now, a lot of gadget plays, and they're going to have time of possession and defense to get 3-and-outs and quick drives here. So last season for this defense, 48 sacks, 9 interceptions, 11 fumble recoveries with 2 touchdowns. And I think this season here, the sacks are going to be good. The points allowed, 363. Not a great number for this San Francisco 49er team, but this defense could go out there and make some plays. And I think this season, that's what they're going to count on, defense and a lot of running by Trey Lance and time of possession on offense. And they were in a division, besides the Rams, you're not really going to be that scared. Arizona could be a hit-or-miss offense this year, especially with Hopkins definitely out for a few weeks here with the suspension. And this 49er team, they got a good coached group here. And I think this defense is number 3. Number 4, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Steelers, they've been up and down on a lot of people's sites here. But Pittsburgh last season, I thought the defense played decent. 55 sacks, which was up there. 13 interceptions, 9 fumble recoveries with a return touchdown. The problem, they got into too many shootouts. And I know that division has great teams like the Bengals who went to the Super Bowl, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, which is an explosive offense. But that Cleveland Brown team is a team that defenses are going to tee off on all season with Watson suspended and not many weapons on the outside besides Amari Cooper, even though his best years are behind him. So I think the Steelers this season going to be a heavy run game team with obviously Trubisky or Pickens, the quarterback. They're going to feed the beast Najee Harris over there in Pittsburgh, and they're going to rely on this defense to make plays. I know their points allowed last season, 386 is a lot, no doubt about it. But I got a feeling this defense could come out this season, make some plays, and they're a team that's always in the thick of things, this Pittsburgh team. No matter who's on the roster and no matter who's on defense, they get the job done, and I think this season they're going to surprise people. And I got them this season in number 4. Number 5, the Tampa Bay Bucks. So the Bucks here, They're a team that we know their defense goes out there and makes plays. Todd Bowles was a good defensive coordinator for them, but now he's elevated to the head coach with Bruce Arians retiring. So Tampa last season, 341 points allowed, 47 sacks, 17 interceptions, 12 fumble recoveries, and 2 touchdowns. And right now, at the number 5 spot, I think it's a safe way to have this Tampa Bay Buck team. The defense is going to go out there and make plays. They still got all their stud guys, except for Ndamukong Suh is still out there on the free agent market, which is surprising to me. A guy who could stuff the run, a guy who clog up the middle over there for running backs, and a guy I think Tampa Bay should have brought back, but everyone else is still on the roster, and they took some pay cuts, most of these guys, but they got David still over there. They all got the corners, even though we know last season that secondary was decimated. But Tampa Bay's healthy, they're ready to go, and they're going to be a team that's going to put up points in a hurry on the scoreboard and make opposing offenses one-dimensional as well, and that's where the defense really gets it going. Number 6, the New England Patriots. So the Patriots, no matter who's on the team or the roster, this defense always goes out there and performs, and they're in a pretty good division. The only team I'd really be worried about is the Buffalo Bills, obviously, but everything else they can handle. The Jets, which they have for decades now, and the Miami Dolphins, they usually play good against too. Last season, 279 points allowed, amongst the league leaders in lows in points, 36 sacks, 23 interceptions, 7 fumble recoveries, and 3 touchdowns. So this New England defense, always a solid unit. Bill Belichick has these guys always playing right, and they go out there, they make their stops, they're going to get some turnovers. Last season with 30 total turnovers caused and 3 total touchdowns. And like I said, some of these weaker teams in the division, with a Tua and a Zach Wilson, the young quarterbacks, Bill Belichick games planned great for, and that's where his defense gets the big plays, and I see it happening once again for Belichick and this team. For them to compete once again this season, it's going to be on the defense, and he's going to have that unit ready. So I got him in number 6 with good division opponents besides the Bills, and just with Bill Belichick still manning the defense and writing up the schemes, obviously. Number 7, the Baltimore Ravens. So the Ravens, obviously, in a tough division. Cincinnati Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though a quarterback, we don't know what they're going to do. But the Ravens defense, they've been a decent unit for years. Last season, 374 points allowed, 34 sacks, 9 interceptions, 6 fumble recoveries, and a touchdown. Their problem is a lot of shootouts this Raven team's been getting into. But this season, I think they're going to focus more on defense this year. They're a team I got at number 7. I know they're in a tough division, like I mentioned here, but they're a team that has a pretty good schedule to start off. You got the Jets, Miami, and New England, 3 mediocre to poor offenses to start the season, where I think this Raven team could go out there and make plays, and they're a team you could get late in your fantasy drafts towards the 12th, 13th round right now on defense. Their schedule, to be honest, isn't that tough until maybe week 8. They'll have a couple tough games here and there as this Baltimore Raven team, but their defense, I think, gets off to a good start this season. Last year, I know they blew a lot of games or defensively assignments and stuff, but this season, I think they get things back on track. Last year, they just missed out on the playoffs, a lot of close games, losing as well, and this defense just has to bounce back for them, and I think it will. Number 8, the Indianapolis Colts. So the Colts last season, a great defense for the most part, 359 points allowed, which is a lot, but 33 sacks, 19 interceptions, 14 fumble recoveries for 33 total turnovers and 3 touchdowns. So this team here, they're an opportunist type of defense, and obviously with a monster like Darius Leonard on the defense, they're going to go out there and make plays. They're going to turn that ball over, and that's what they thrived on. They're going to give up points, no doubt about it. But if you could get a few windows a ball game and a fumble recovery or 2, you're going to get 10, 12 points a week from a defense. And that's what this Indianapolis Colts defense could do. And they were in a division where it's not that scary. The Houston Texans, they're not great at all. The Jacksonville Jaguars, yeah, I know they got a few pieces in the offseason with a Christian Kirk and an Evan Ingram, and Travis Etienne is healthy and ready to go. But still, this division isn't strong at all, in my opinion. And those are young quarterbacks where the Colts could feast on 4 times a year here. And that's exactly what they're going to do. So at the number 8 spot, I think they're solid. Number 9, Denver Broncos. So the Broncos, always been a solid defensive team. Just the offense has been behind the defense the last few seasons. But now they're loaded on the offense, adding Russell Wilson to the mix in the offseason and the trade. And last year, the Broncos defense, 304 points allowed, 36 sacks, 13 interceptions, 6 fumble recoveries, and a touchdown with 3 block kicks. I know in the toughest division in all pro football in the AFC West, you got the Chargers, you got the Kansas City Chiefs, Yeah, obviously, you got the Vegas Raiders, you got Devontae Adams now, so it's going to be tough. But this Bronco unit, they always find ways to put points on the board, and they get to the quarterback. But this season, it definitely could be tough for them. But still, at number 9 in a tough division, I still think the Broncos could get the job done and be pretty decent. In the first few weeks of the season for them, they got an easy schedule. Seattle, they could feast on. Houston, their offense ain't much. In San Francisco, we don't know for sure what this offense is going to be now with Trey Lance on the center, even though I'm imagining it's going to be a lot of run and gadget playing over there in San Francisco. But this Bronco defense, I think they can hold their own. And I like them in number 9, number 10, the New Orleans Saints. So the Saints defense, they've been solid for seasons as well. Last year, 317 points allowed, 46 sacks, which was a big number, 18 interceptions, 7 fumble recoveries, and 2 touchdowns. And remember, last season, this defense was put in a lot of bad situations where their quarterbacks just couldn't move the football once Jameis Winston went out for the season with a torn ACL. And now Winston's going to be back. He should be ready here for week 1. So this offense will put this defense in better position. And this division as well, not the greatest divisions, I think. The Falcons, they're rebuilding this season. Tampa Bay, we know they're a stud team. No doubt about it. But besides that, there's not much in that division that's scary in my opinion. So I think the Saints here could have another good season on defense. Carolina, Baker Mayfield's the quarterback. I don't think it's going to make much as well. So right there, that's I think they could feast is this New Orleans Saints defense. And like I mentioned, they're always a well-coached defense. They always get to the quarterback. And they always keep, for the most part, games in check over the last few seasons. So right here, I got the Saints at number 10. Number 11, the Los Angeles Chargers. So the Chargers here with Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack on both sides of the ball. That's very scary for opposing quarterbacks and offensive linemen. So right here, the Chargers, they beefed up with that on the defensive end of things here. But they're in that tough division in the AFC West. You got the Chiefs, got the Raiders with Devontae Adams, and you got the Broncos now with Russell Wilson and real weapons on that roster. So right now, last season, the Chargers, they gave up tons of points, and they lost in a lot of shootouts. 441 points allowed, 35 sacks, though, 11 interceptions, 10 fumble recoveries, a touchdown with a return touchdown. So sacks are going to be the big thing for this Charger team. But the only problem with them is, can they keep the points down on the scoreboard? Derwin James, he signed a contract extension. He's a big-time safety over there in Los Angeles. But this team, they got to stay healthy, and they got to keep the points down because points allowed is a huge thing that's been a problem for the Chargers over many seasons. And this year, in a tough division with all stacked offenses, that might be a problem. But with Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, I got to have this team up there, at least in the top 15. And I got them at number 11 this season. Number 12, the Tennessee Titans. So the Titans, they're going to be built on defense and running the football with Derrick Henry this season. No doubt about it with this Titan team. And this Titan team last season, they were a hit-or-miss type of D in fantasy. 354 points allowed, but 43 sacks, 16 interceptions, 6 fumble recoveries with 3 defensive touchdowns. So right here, they're a good sack team. Their division isn't strong besides the Indianapolis Colts here. So they're going to play Jacksonville, obviously, and the Houston Texans. 2 weak offenses where they could tee you off for 4 games right away here is this Tennessee Titan team. So this Titan team, it's going to be about the D and the run game. Mike Vrabel, that's what he preaches is defense. And right here, this Titan team, if they want to compete this season, after trading some key offensive guys away and losing a few guys, they got to rely, obviously, on this defense to make plays. And I think they can. I know the schedule is pretty tough the first few weeks of the season. Giants, which they should be all right versus. Then Buffalo, Las Vegas, and Indianapolis. With Tennessee here, like I mentioned, I got those 4 good division ball games versus weak offenses and a couple teams mixed in as well this year as well. So the Titans and number 12, number 13, the Green Bay Packers. So the Packers this season, we'll see what they could do with Devontae Adams out of town and traded to the Las Vegas Raiders. And this defense, they've been pretty decent over the last couple of years, I believe, this Packer team. For many seasons, their defense was a problem, not helping the offense out. But last year, this defense went out there, it made plays, and it was pretty solid. 39 sacks, 18 interceptions, 8 fumble recoveries, 2 touchdowns. I know the points were high a little bit at 371, but everything else was good for this Packer team. They're going to get to the quarterback. They're going to get turnovers, which they had over 20 last season. And they were in a division beside the Chicago Bears aren't much, in my opinion, over there in the NFC North. And also, Fine versus Detroit into Chicago, two offense that I think are piss poor and not going to do much. Obviously, Minnesota and them is always a shootout, and that's the week one matchup. But after that, they got Chicago, Tampa, New England, Jets, and Giants, which are all favorable matchups besides Tampa Bay here for this Packer defense. So this Packer defense, pretty light schedule the first 6 weeks of the season here. I think they could get the job done, and they're going to need this defense to step up a little bit because this offense, I don't think, is going to be putting up 30 points a game anymore with Devontae Adams out of town, even though Aaron Rodgers is still the quarterback and he can make any receiver look great. But Devontae Adams is a legit talent and a big loss, no doubt about it, for this Packer team. So we'll see if this offense still could put the defense in a great position where they make opposing offenses one-dimensional, and that's where the Packers play their best defense in those situations. Number 14, the Cleveland Browns. So the Browns in disarray going into the season after trading 5 picks for Deshaun Watson in the offseason, giving him a monster contract, $230 million, and still his off-the-field issues have been a problem. Him suspended the first 11 games of the season. So if they want to stay in the hunt over there in that AFC North, is this Brown team. They're going to have to play great football versus tougher teams. The Pittsburgh Steelers always in the mix, no matter what's going on. Obviously, the Super Bowl team in the AFC, the Cincinnati Bengals, going to have another great season. And also in that division, you got the Baltimore Ravens. That's a dynamic offense with Lamar Jackson. So last season, this Brown defense, 365 points allowed, 43 sacks, 13 intos, 6 fumble recoveries, 2 touchdowns. So you still got Myles Garrett over there. You got good pass rushers. You still got Ward at cornerback, which are 2 great guys to have on your team, a great pass rusher and a great corner. And this defense really has to dig in now for this Cleveland Brown team. I know in their tough division, but the first few weeks of the season, they got a pretty good schedule. Carolina's offense is nothing to be afraid of. Baker Mayfield, this defense wants to get to him early and often after he wanted out of Cleveland. The New York Jets, you don't know what you're going to see with their offense. Pittsburgh and them, it could go either way. And then the Atlanta Falcons in a rebuilding season. So the first few weeks of the season here, this Brown team has a pretty favorable matchups, like I mentioned here. And they're going to have to count on this defense. I don't know if Jacoby Brissett could do much on this offense. We know Nick Chubb is a stud running back, no doubt about it. Amari Cooper, he's not really a number 1 wide receiver anymore, in my opinion, even though he could surprise people and have a decent year in Cleveland. But the defense is where it's going to start with them, especially the first 2-3 months of the season with Deshaun Watson out. And I got them at 14th, and the 15th and final defense I'm ranking heading into the season and for fantasy drafts is the Dallas Cowboys. So last season, this Cowboy team, they still got gashed, points put on the scoreboard, but a lot of turnovers they caused. 34 turnovers total, 346 points allowed, 41 sacks, 26 intos, 8 fumble recoveries, and 8 touchdowns. So right here, this Cowboy team, they had a knack. Diggs, what a season Trevon Diggs had last year. He was an interception machine. DeMarcus Lawrence, he's still there. Randy Gregory left. But besides that, this Cowboy team, I don't think they got much besides Parsons, Diggs, and Lawrence as their main 3 guys over there. This defense is still leaky in the secondary. They still don't get to the quarterback that great. Randy Gregory, I don't think he was the greatest of players, but at least he put pressure on the quarterback. I know they signed Anthony Barr, this Cowboy team, but who knows what he has left, and he's on the PUP list to start the season. So this defense, I don't think is going to be all that great, but their knack to getting turnovers last season was a big thing for them. And I think, once again, this season, they could be decent in those terms of things. And they're in a division where those offenses, besides Philly, aren't great. I don't think the Commanders' offense is going to do much this season with Carson Wentz. And the New York Giants, the Cowboys have owned over the last 5 seasons. I believe winning 9 out of 10 ball games and really making plays. So the Cowboys start the season off with a few tough games with Tampa and Cincinnati. And then they got the mentioned New York Giants and Washington Commanders in those other games. So right here, I think they could be decent getting turnovers. They got a couple easy games on the schedule this year with teams with bad quarterbacks, and we'll see what they do. But right now, I'm tampering the expectations with this Cowboy defense. A lot of websites, I've seen them have in the top 10, but I got them at 15 right now because last season was a great year getting 34 turnovers, and that's going to be a tough number to come close to and obviously match. That's the top 15 defenses I'm ranking heading into fantasy drafts and the fantasy football season within the next few weeks.